For joining. It's Thursday, July 24th. We're excited for everybody who's come in and joined us about the upcoming FMCSA changes. My name is Andrew Bazan. I am the Director of Marketing here at Simplex Group. Happy to have you. And for those who were here last month during our English proficiency webinar, might recognize Pam Perez, our DOT expert here, who's coming to join us and talk to us a little bit more about some additional changes aside from the English proficiency that we spoke at length. As a quick reminder for everybody who doesn't already know, Simplex Group, I'd say compliance is our jam, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. We've been in the business for close to 25 years now, and we really look forward. We pride ourselves on knowing what's going on with DOT FMCSA, and we're looking forward to get started. I say we kind of jump right in here. All right. So quickly, topics we're going to cover here are going to be the CSA score changes, what's going on with the non-domiciled CDL audits, and the shift to digital medical cards. So we're going to try to make this as easy to understand, digestible as possible. So let's jump right into what's going on with the CSA score changes. First and foremost, Pam, is the name itself. No more basics, is it?
Correct. They're going to be now called compliance groups.
Compliance groups or compliance categories.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So out with the basics, in with the new. And does that mean that we're also probably going to have an overhaul of our categories as we know it, right?
Yes. There's a few minor changes, especially as what before. You had unsafe driving, crash indicator, hours of service, vehicle maintenance, control substance and alcohol, hazardous materials, driver fitness. Now you will have a combination of unsafe driving with controlled substances. The reason is because they want to focus on the risky driver behavior. So you're still going to have the behaviors or what they look for in unsafe driving, which is speeding, texting while driving, seat belt. Those are still going to be the same violations, but now it's going to be combined with a controlled substance. So you have to be careful now, because this means that any clearinghouse violations most likely is going to be weighted on within this category.
Got it. So we're getting rid of one, but we're still staying at the 7 because I believe they've added almost an extension to the vehicle maintenance, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Vehicle maintenance has been split into two. One is going to be like the mechanical root of the problem when it focuses on the unit itself. And then the other one's going to be on the vehicle maintenance of how the driver observes or prepares for their day-to-day. So these are, they're going to be more about their pre-trip inspections and their post-trip inspections, meaning that we have the capability of training our drivers, and so that they can improve this and find this type of mechanical issues at plain sight, report them to their dispatchers or safety managers so that they can get fixed before they start their day or at the end when they finish their day. So these are like the threads, the lights, those are the observed driver violations. They're going to go under that driver observed category.
Got it. So it's pretty much anything that the driver could have seen during their pre-trip inspection. If they didn't, or it was missed during an inspection, they're going to get dinged.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Excellent. I think that sums it up pretty well. The other thing too that we've noticed with the FMCSA is that they seem to be simplifying things, right?
Yes. They want to make sure that they're looking at the right stuff. They want to become efficient. They want to be able to simplify as much possible. Before, we had the violations ranked from 1 to 10, mm-hmm. and now they're only going to be two types of points. It's going to be 1 or 2. The first one will be the standard violations, and then level 2 will be the out of service or disqualifying violations. Okay. So, for example, a falsification of logs is going to be a level 2 disqualifying violations.
Got it.
A prohibited driver driving with a suspended commercial driver license will be a 2-point auto service violation.
Got it. So we're going from 10 to like pass, fail, and really fail.
Yes.
Got it. And so I'm assuming with the simplifying of going from the 1 to 10 to 1 to 2 or up to 2, that's going to probably lower the amount of codes, isn't it?
Correct. It's gonna move from the existing 973 violation codes to 116. So the example here is, for example, is that whenever a driver will be stopped and fined with 3 violations for a violation in the 11-hour, the 14-hour rule, or they missed to punch in their brake, before they used to get points for each one of the violations themselves. Now it's only going to be 1 violation for the 3 instances that they found.
Okay, so that's why we're going from about 73 types of codes under HOS to about 19 or so.
Yes.
Got it. All right, absolutely. So that makes things a little bit easier. Additionally, they're getting rid of safety event groups, right? And now they're calling it proportionate percentile. So how does that work? How did it work, I guess, the current system? And then how is that going to be changed moving forward?
So believe it or not, the FMCSA listened to the carrier's feedback, in which sometimes currently it's not fair how they get moved from event groups based on the number of inspections of their sizes, the size fleet. So before, if you had a small carrier that had 12 inspections, would be pushed to the second event group, and the proportional percentile would hurt him more, and it would be harder for him to get out of that group. And now what is going to happen is that the carriers are going to be based more of the number of the actual inspections. So they're going to remove the event groups, and they're going to be the number of inspections will actually provide the proportionate percentile they're going to fall into.
The current way, if I'm a fleet owner of about 3 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
in the current system, I'm being compared to another 3 to 10 fleet owner up until a certain point, correct, on the number of violations, at which point I jump to the 11 to 20.
Correct.
That's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. It is going to be based on the number of inspections that you have, and they're going to use the proportional percentile to see how risky you are or not.
But I'm still going to be compared to my peers.
You're still going to be compared to your peers.
Okay, excellent. That makes total sense. All right. I think one of the things that we kind of kept seeing, and we'll get to it maybe on the second part of this, is that the FMCSA has kind of changed a little bit the thresholds as to when they're going to come in, right? And whether it's a letter in the mail or when they decide to maybe get a little bit more into it. But how have the thresholds changed? Have they lowered, raised, and which ones?
So unsafe driving, crash indicator, and hours of service compliance will remain the same for general carriers. It's still going to be a threshold of 65%. But for hazmat carriers, it's going to be 60%, and for passenger carriers, it's going to be 50%. The lowest correlation to crash risk will be raised up for hazmat carriers in the driver fitness category and the hazardous materials. These is the one that has the major change, that it will be bumped up to 90%.
Some of the questions that I had when we were looking into this was, and perhaps it seems like 90% is a pretty high percentage, right? And logically, you think hazmat, and now hazmat's going up to 90%. What was the reasoning behind that? It seems like a really high bar that was raised.
Yes, most of the public and carriers, specifically the hazmat carriers, are like, they can't believe they actually raised it instead of lowering it, because it's hazmat. Like, an accident with a hazmat load is much more of a damage than any other general freight.
Right.
But the reason why they did it is because they analyzed data from the past years, and it actually shows that carriers who usually are categorized as hazmat are very into safety protocols that they have been able to prove that there are a safety carrier that knows how to follow regulations and prevent accidents. So that's why they gave them a leeway to 90, so that all those resources from the FMCSA go actually attributed to the carriers who are at a more risk behaviors and have more of bad inspections and are close to other thresholds for the general carriers. So you could kind of think about that the carriers that are hazmat now have more of a free pass, and the general carriers now are going to be more, they're going to have time to focus on you guys. So it's good for the hazmat, not so good for the general.
But hazmat, in theory, also still gets a little bit more regulated anyway.
Yes, they have additional regulations, and when you go through an audit, you have to review other items as well, other documents.
So I think it's I mean, if the data's there, right? I guess we'll see what happens moving forward. So okay, I want to touch on something that we had a very good amount of questions on in the pre-registration form. So thanks for everybody who submitted those questions. We'll do a formal Q&A at the end, but I thought that this was asked enough that we could talk about it as a topic. This 12-month reset focus on the more recent, I think we need clarification. We know that the FMCSA is now going to start putting a little bit more importance in more recent violations, right? But we're more used to the 24 months. It's going to take 2 years before violations start dropping off of your record. What's going on with that? But is there a 12-month reset rule? Should they worry more about what's going on recently versus what happened 24 months ago? Is that going away?
Well, kinda. Okay. So what had happened is that before the violations would stay for 24 months and we're still tracked. So the violations are going to continue to stay on record for 24 months. But the thing is that they're now going to focus more of the events that happened within the last 12 months. And the reason is this is actually a relief for some of the carriers who decide to, make an overhaul of their operations and clean house with their drivers, implement correction action trainings and all of that. They will actually have the opportunity, based on their new performance, having good inspections and following all these new the regulations themselves. They're going to be able to see the improved behavior and have more value than actually whatever happened in the last 24 months.
So I am a carrier and I received an hours of service violation 18 months ago. Mm-hmm. But in the last 12 months, I haven't. So I haven't received a violation. Do I get a score in that category?
As long as you have not received any new violation within the hours of service category, practically that will not be turned on or anything. You wouldn't have an alert.
Oh, okay, great. All right.
It would still remain the one that the violation that you have will still remain on record, but it would drop off.
But I wouldn't have that score.
You wouldn't have that score, correct?
Oh, that's great. Okay, very cool. So hope that answered the question of those folks that were kind of asking on that. I think that ties a bow a little bit on the CSA scoring. So let's move on to the alert we all probably got about the nationwide audit on the non-domiciled CDLs. As a reminder, the non-domiciled CDLs are issued to foreign nationals, proper paperwork, who come, work, and live here in the States, obviously under the right paperwork with the right regulations. And so those are issued to those foreign nationals living here. But it appears that due to some issues in certain states, it's now dinged for audits nationwide.
Yes. What happened is that, okay, we became very lenient in accepting people that were coming in from other countries and with the right paperwork, like you said, a working visa in which they had an authorization and they had to go through the same process of doing a knowledge test and doing the skills test. Okay, so as long as they did that and they obtained a commercial driver license, this falls under the non-domicile because they don't have a permanent residency within that state. But nonetheless, they do have, documentation to support that they're allowed it to have a license, okay? So everything was working well until there are certain agencies in some states, like, for example, in California, were found that they were abusing and not being as strict and more lenient on providing this type of commercial driver license. Now, that's one type of the non-domiciles. Then we have the B1 or the Mexican and Canadian license. They're also considered non-domicile CDLs, but the difference is that they have their own commercial driver license that is valid for them to come into the States in international trips or hauls and drive here with owning the same Canadian or Mexican license. Okay, they're not required to get a U.S. license, and that is part of a special treaty. But what happened was that some carriers abuse that, and that's the problem. That's the issue, that it is intended for them for international trips coming in and out of the country. But nonetheless, some of them would concentrate and do in the country long haul trips cross country that were not. That's abusive of the permit that they have.
Got it. So instead of just picking up and dropping off and making it that transactional, they ended up staying, working nationwide when they weren't supposed to do it.
Exactly. And there were some of them. I don't know how is it that they do it, but there are certain drivers that end up getting a license from the state because maybe they're in the process of a residency. So they get the license and they start off with a regular Class E license, or like any individual have, and then they fall into having a Class E US based, and then a CDL from Mexico or Canada. And you can't hold two driver licenses. So if you get caught, that's going to be a major violation.
Got it.
Okay.
I assume with these audits underway, and I know that you mentioned California being one of the ones with the issues, and there's probably a couple other states. What states here are taking kind of like the toughest stance on this?
The states of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Arkansas is known to have even filed a petition in which if a non-domicile commercial driver gets involved in an accident and there's a fatality, like they're gonna go after the strongest and the toughest penalty. Like it could even end up in jail. So they have to make sure that, okay, so this is not, it doesn't mean that you can't hire non-domicile commercial drivers, but you just have to be very precautious at the moment of screening them. Like you have to, when you are considering hiring non-domicile drivers, then you have to go an extra step of actually confirming their working permits, their visa status, so that you don't fall into that their paperwork is going to expire and then they're going to downgrade their license and they're no longer going to be valid. So that's the approach that we want the carriers to take on.
Excellent. Okay. All right. And the issues really kind of stemmed, I want to make sure, since we mentioned California, Florida, Oregon, those are really the more concentrated states where this issue kind of arose.
Yes.
For everywhere. Okay. Got it. All right.
So if you have drivers with Oregon license, California license, and Florida license, be careful. Start reviewing the paperwork.
Got it. I think that's the biggest takeaway from that one. All right. So let's shift to electronic medical cards. So this happened last month, and I know that we kind of spoke about it to some of our clients, let them know, gave them awareness on it. Tell us where do we stand with it, and maybe give us a reminder as to what it is. This is very, to me, similar to when we went from paper logs to the ELD.
Correct. It's more of a medical examiners now are expected to submit the medical cards through electronic transmissions to the state driver license agencies. Okay. And this is a little bit to remove the paper trail itself. It's one less document that the driver is going to have to carry with them in their trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to. The medical examiner is required to submit the medical card within the end of the day or next day to the National Registry, and that will be the update to directly to the DMV and state driver licenses agencies.
Okay.
The issue is that not everybody was prepared, and we have a couple of states that are still following the old way. Okay. So we have Alaska, California, Florida, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oklahoma, Vermont, Wyoming. These states are actually still providing an paper-based medical card instead of the electronic. So the FMCSA issued an extension until October 12th, giving them the opportunity for these states to come on board with the new process. And you, as a carrier, you have to be proactive and start looking at the expirations of your driver's license, specifically with this state, because you have to advise them to, whenever they reach out to the medical examiner, they verify whether they're on the program or not. Okay, because if they are on the program, they aren't on the program, they're gonna be issued a paper-based medical card, and they're still gonna have to do the online submission or going directly to your local DMV and make the update. Okay, and it will take 15 days of this a window for them to get it updated. If not, they face the probability of getting the license downgrade. Okay, and once you do complete this process, it's very important that now you get into the habit of running a motor vehicle record so that you can see that it has been transmitted and updated with the new expiration date.
Got it. Okay. All right. Excellent. I know we're getting timed here, that we're kind of running a little bit short on time. I thought this was pretty easy to understand, pretty digestible. We didn't necessarily talk about it at length, but we do have a few actually questions here about, there's an hours of service pilot program.
Correct. Currently, they're running a hours of service pilot program in which they want to be able to see if, and again, the FMCSA is listening to the carriers. They want to see if they can implement some sort of split in which you can get at least 3 hours that wouldn't hit your on-duty time. And this is mainly because of all the waits that they have to go through whenever they get to the loading or unloading periods.
Okay.
But this doesn't mean that this is something that they can do right now. Okay, you gotta register with them to go with to get enrolled in the pilot and participate in the pilot program.
That's what I was going to ask. You can't just up and decide that you wanted to be part of this. Okay, they need to get you.
Yes, you have to go through the proper registration with the FMCSA.
Okay, got it. Dates. When is this happening? When do we think? I know we talked a lot about the upcoming changes. That's a lot to take in.
Well, the non-domicile audit is going on right now. The medical card transmission started last month. Now, this update with the CSA score is actually right now, it has been delayed a little bit. It was supposed to be implemented towards the end of the year, this year.
Okay.
We try to consult with our fellow network of auditors, but they say that currently they're still on the works, so nothing's set in stone. And again, what we have explained this day might be subject to changes once they come closer to the implementation date.
Got it. I do want to mention, we got about 5 or 6 questions here about the English language proficiency. Just reminder, guys, we do have that webinar up. We did talk about it last month. We'll be sure that when we reach out to everybody who was here and present at the webinar, that we'll resend that as well, since that does seem to still be a topic that folks want to talk about. Right. So absolutely. All right. That is time. Unfortunately, we don't have time. Oh, do we? Okay, great. So that being said, any sort of quick housekeeping, any sort of additional Q&As that we may have received here, I want to make sure that we're going to be talking about in our FAQs post when we finish up and wrap up here, guys. We're all going to make sure that we send out this recording of the webinar, addition to anything that we talked about, presentation, and the FAQs. There might have been questions here that we didn't necessarily touch on. So just please be on the lookout for that. We're always looking for feedback. And I know that Pam here, we're very lucky to have her. Any sort of questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And can't not say goodbye without saying a plug.
Thank you. Actually, we want to thank everybody who took the time of their regular, busy day and log in to the webinar and participated in all of this information. Changes are, nobody likes changes, but at the end, change is good. Sometimes in all these CSA updates, eventually when they roll out, it's all for the benefit of the public, safety, and also to make your operations more efficient and safe.
Well, and to your point on the proportionate percentile, that was a result of carriers with the feedback.
Correct.
Right. So
they were persistent on providing the feedback that it was unfair comparison between carriers. That actually at the end of the day, all of the CSAs and the alerts and all of that, it has a tremendous impact on them when it comes to their insurance renewal, the quality of loads. So this is why they did, evaluated the data, and this is how they, came to terms to
Absolutely.
compromise, help them a little bit, but still, you're still accountable for the regulations of being safe.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Please follow us on and subscribe on YouTube. We are Simplex Group, and at Simplex Group, pretty much anywhere else online. You'll find us, log on, and we're always willing to pick up the phone. You'll always get a real person, by the way. So absolutely. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll see you here next month.
Thank you.